of making people better. And as the slogan say, let's think, let's talk, and let's transform.
Right on.
I like it.
We're gonna call her Mr. Empower. Indeed, but like I said, he came last time and brought his open letters to black women, and I was ready to, give him this big little bell, but I let him live.
You told me about this.
She was trying to give me.
I was texting
ready
her like,
to
just do
Yeah.
this T-book, just
Let
do
him
that.
live.
Yeah.
We made it through.
And shame on the sisters that was having my back. Was like, okay, well, just let him live. Just let him live. But no, he is back to talk about the brother. So let's go ahead and get into the open letter to black as I look it up right now. So how does this coincide with the open letter to black women, or does it coincide?
It coincide because actually the open letter to black men is a series.
Okay.
I haven't even touched on, or at least not publicly. No one has seen the actual response to the open letter to black women.
Okay.
Because I've dealt with a lot about the open letter to black women. Still, it's 3 months later. People are hitting me up about open letter to black women, and so that conversation has still been going. But as it was getting close to Father's Day, I said I wanted to put something out there for men. I have another piece saluting fathers.
Okay.
And I put that out the day before Father's Day. But I wanted to preface that with the open letter to black men to get that started to talk about the things that we have to do to make our community better.
Oh yeah, and I definitely
The things that I didn't know this, ironically, but the 20-year anniversary of the Million Man March is approaching.
Indeed.
And to hear Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speak, I think it's going to be a great thing. So I think within that spirit of unity, that spirit of brotherhood, and going from the many years and generations to right now, the many brothers who have fallen and being killed, the voices have to speak. And I think not just the past and the present voices, but the future voices have to speak, so the next generation will not have to recycle the same issues.
Right. We can't rely on past leaders and stuff. It's up to us, now. And shout out to Shunkisa Lewis, who is doing a GoFundMe for the 20th anniversary right now. So we're going to post that on the Conscious Crew Facebook page and Instagram.
Can I shout her out real quick too?
You
Because
can.
most people don't know, but she's my editor.
Okay.
She is my editor. Ms. Lewis. So
This is a small world.
Yeah, small world. So shout out to Lewis. I love you.
Well, to the
both.
communication realm.
Yeah. She's a
Shout out
beast.
to her. And shout out to NABJ. That's the National Association of Black Journalists listening right now. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's go ahead and dissect this thing.
Because I have questions. I read it completely, and I thought it was wonderful. But I do have a few questions for you. So I guess once we kind of get into it, I'll sneak
Go ahead,
those
pop it
questions.
out.
Yeah, pop it out. Let's get it.
Well, I want to talk about, and this is a quote. It says, in fact, black men to not participate in the voting process is to pick the very people who pull the trigger and continue to add names to the list of black men slain.
Yes.
That says a lot. That's very telling, because it's true. If we don't vote, then this is what happens. It's like a cycle. This is exactly what's going to happen. So, elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, I think black men, we get excited for football games.
Right.
We get excited when it's time to pick, who we're going to bet on, who's going to be in our fantasy leagues and all those things that are not true, which is good. I have no problem with that. With all the things that happen in life, you need something to alleviate and have a little fun.
Right.
But when that ends, life is still going on. And a lot of times our youth, our generation, our kids, they don't see the importance of voting. They don't see the importance of being politically aware, being a part of your community. As I also put in the piece, we can't have this double standard and say Black lives matter, but yet we have the premises that Black voice doesn't matter. We have to choose how it's going to be. It's contradicting, and we can't, be mad when we are assaulted by those in power. When we kill each other, we are silent.
Indeed.
And so it's a lot of, like you said, contradictions, great word, that exist in our community. And so as a black man, we are still, even though we've abandoned our position in many ways, we're still the leaders of our community and of our families. And I know of children. I know when my nephew sees me do something, he wants to do that too. So what would happen if the black men in our community stood up and said, we're going to vote, we're going to get out, and we're going to take responsibility?
It's going to be a chain reaction.
It's going to be a chain reaction until where kids will see, hey, it's actually cool to be conscious.
Right.
You know, it's cool to be that conscious crew. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, I see you there.
You know,
Because I feel like it's cool now. I mean, what you're saying is true because now we see that it's cool to be like Lil
Indeed.
Wayne or a Young Thug or you know, or a hip hop mogul. It's cool to do those things. So if more of the black men stood up and made it more cool to be leaders and motivational speakers and college graduates, then I think it would be contagious.
I think just piggybacking on what you both are saying, that comes with holding ourselves accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We always say, well, we need to do what we need to do, but nobody's stepping forward and say, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Let's get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
So I think it comes with holding ourselves accountable, not just placing the Diddy's and the 50 Cents and the Young Thugs and all this stuff, you know, in their faces, but let's put the MLKs, let's put the Malcolm X's in their faces, let's put the books in their faces and say, hey, this is what we can do, this is where we come from, and this is what we can do. You know what I mean? So it's just about holding ourselves accountable. You mentioned Black Lives Matter. We have to hold ourselves accountable in that realm too. We always get so upset when white people or Hispanic people kill black people, but what about the black people that kill black people? We have to hold them accountable as well. Say, let's stop killing each other and let's start bringing each other up.
Yeah.
You know, so
Absolutely.
it's about accountability at the end of the day.
It really is. It really is.
I also want to talk about voting. I've seen a number of my friends and family. They go, I don't. Why vote anyway? It's not going to make a difference.
Right.
So that's kind of where you go when you talk about Black Lives Matter, but the voice doesn't. And that's we're doing it. Our voices don't matter when we do that. That's just pretty much an example of that. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to vote because, you know, it's not going to change nothing anyway. But it can, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I think that is so important because at the end of the day, as I put in the piece that you can read at tchughes.com, is that when you vote, then you actually are speaking the loudest. Because as we always say, the proof is in the paperwork.
Right.
And the paperwork is when you go and you cast that ballot. And you get out there and you say, okay, I matter enough to me and to my community, and I care about who is representing my community, whether it's locally, whether it's state, whether it's on a national platform. All these things matter, and we shouldn't just wait 4 years. Every 2 years, get out there and vote.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, directly for the things that affect our community. It is, you know, it is so important, and it really bothers me when I hear people say, man, what I'm gonna vote for? I don't care who's in office. Like, don't
Do your
you?
homework.
Yeah, you should.
But again, those same
for
people
the
that you don't care
right.
about are the same people that you know that shooting us down in the
Yeah.
street. So then you care, you know, when that's the issue.
Exactly.
And really, don't just go for the popular vote. Do your homework. Do your research on these candidates, because just because, you know, Pookie and Boo Boo and all them are voting for so-and-so don't mean that they're the best candidate. Do your homework. Do your
Yeah.
own research.
Absolutely. I put that in the piece that we can't vote blindly for one political party, you know, or be caught up in the propaganda that is given by a political party. That's nonsense. That's, to me, that's almost like not having a vote at all, because your vote is null and void anyway.
Right.
Because if you're doing that, the political party already knows we don't have to do much for them anyway. They're going to be loyal regardless. So they're not going to, as you said, hold us accountable for what we say we are and will not do. And so it's really important, and we can't continue to act reactively to every situation. As I put in the piece, and I want to make sure that I express it, because you do it so much better in words than with writing, is that I do not disrespect the marching, the protesting. I do not disrespect our ancestors and everyone who comes before us as far as their approach to solving issues and the system. However, I do know that we live in a different generation, and we have far more access not only to technology but to education.
So yeah,
We
talk
can
to
make
us
a
about
difference.
the approach you feel like we need to take now, because we're in different times, and of course the things that they did then, that was necessary and appropriate for that time. But what do we need to be
That's all
doing
they
now?
had, but
Yeah.
now we're in such an
And they were fighting for
evolving
different
generation.
causes than we are now. You know, and,
Right.
and sadly, some of the same causes as well. So
Very well said. As I put in the piece at the beginning, you know, our forefathers, they were excluded from justice and equality by the rules of segregation. They were standing on the outside, looking in, trying to say, let us in. They were walking around Power's Wall, saying, please, someone on the inside lend an ear to my cry, and with the hopes that, like the children of Jericho, that possibly their loud cry will bring power walls down.
Indeed.
Now, some of the bricks have fallen,
okay,
but let's not get it twisted. The wall still exists.
You know what I mean?
The wall still
It's
exists.
there.
It's still there. So our generation has to look and say, do we do what they did? Because what was successful for them was for that particular era. today, to answer your question, what I think will make us successful is I put in a piece, legislation, representation, and education. When we get the people in power who have our interest in mind, because one thing I know, let's go away from our community, with the Asian community, with the Hispanic community. If you go into their community, they always have a bank, they always have a grocery store, and they always have school, because they know agriculture, they know education, and they know when you're really smart and you're into your money financially, then you own your community.
Right.
Why don't we have that? Now, if you go to any Hispanic community, any Asian community, and they will have those three elements. Now, you go
We
back.
just talked about that
Just
with Dr. Hill.
See,
We
look at.
just talked about
see,
with Dr. Hill. She was saying
We are
that
so
how
coherent
with,
right
with,
now. We're on the same page.
with
That's
Asian
the
community,
spirit.
they're always going to have a donut shop, a nail shop, and a dry cleaner. We just talked about with Dr. Hill, and it's just about, there's nothing
Now, I
wrong.
promise y'all, I wasn't listening in. This is all God right
Right,
here.
this is not what the focus. This is for real.
This is all
We were
God.
just talking about that. Like, every other culture can go in and go back to the neighborhood or even go into other neighborhoods and own businesses and make money off of
Mainly
other
our
culture.
neighborhood.
But we don't do it for ourselves, and it's
Mm-hmm.
mainly because we don't think that we can. We're still stuck in a slave mentality. Like, okay, well, we can't do this because the man has a foot in our neck, and I'm like, we have to get outside of that. We can do those businesses too. It's about just making that step forward. That look, they do this, we can do this for our own communities too. They're taking our money and feeding their families. We need to do the same thing.
And like she said, that they have these donut shops and the nail shop and the beauty supply, and they're putting their kids through college.
Right.
And that's exactly what they're doing. You know how many times I've been into like a nail shop or a donut shop, and they, I'm putting, I have 2 kids, and they
Right.
telling me they always want to know where you from, how many, siblings. They always want to know those type of things, and often they tell me, oh, I'm putting, such and such through school, or my kids.
I was talking with Dr. Hill. We were talking to Dr. Hill on how racism lives through commercial advertising. We were talking about this a long time ago. I don't know if you remember, but we were talking about how you look at the commercials and they make the McDonald's commercials like real hip hop and
We
put
talked
the
about
rappers and
this a
stuff
while
on it.
back, yeah.
And how you don't see no Starbucks or no
Right.
Whole Foods and stuff like that in the black communities. But you're gonna see a Church's Chicken, you're gonna see McDonald's, you're gonna see a Popeyes, you're gonna see a malt liquor.
Yeah,
or
and they got the boom boom.
and the
I'm
black-
loving it, and then they got
Right.
like Dr.
And they
Fish
make
was
it
saying,
hip, they make it trendy, they
Yeah.
make it funky and hip hop, and of course we grab onto it, and then we're going to get
like,
Big
yeah,
Mac.
let me go get that
Yeah.
Big Mac
Instead
and
of
that
going
fry,
and,
I think we talked about before off air. It incenses me when it seems that the only way marketers feel that they can reach the black community is make us sing, dance, put a jingle to it, put a ring to it,
Right.
like crack, Snapple, pop, and you got the black community. It's like, no, we're smarter than that. You got to sing a song. You have to rhyme to me. Just
Right.
talk. Now, I think within our own community, though, the reason they do that is because we don't say this is how it should be done.
They allow
Because
it.
we don't know how it should be
You
done.
have to tell people how to treat you.
Yes, and they would treat you that way. I think that the ultimate thing is the divisiveness that is in our community. I put this in the piece that, as Derica was alluding to, and you were too, Dre, that we have to understand that we cannot have a crab in a barrel mentality, that we cannot fear, I put that in the piece, that we cannot fear other black businesses, but see them as partners. Because again, you go into, and I allude to them a lot, but you go, because I respect it, not to down it, but I respect how the Asians and Hispanics do it. They get together, and you may see 4 or 5 Chinese restaurants, buffets, and you may think they're all competing against each other, but what most people don't know is that all of them are part of one big organization.
Indeed.
Who have said, we're going to branch off to this location, this
That
location,
right.
this, and we're going to have a circle of chains, and we're going to all bring our money together, and we're going to help one another, and they own their own properties.
But you know what, they do that in the Hispanic communities too. Like you see, you'll see a really big house, but you'll see like, it'll be a 4-bedroom house, but you'll see like 20 Hispanic people living in that 4-bedroom house.
Right.
And everybody thinks that, like they must be poor, or they all got to stay together.
They're not
'cause
poor,
it's
they're
only
working
house.
together.
They're putting their money together. You see that with Hispanics. You see that with
And
the Asian
eventually
Americans.
they help each other out. Eventually one part of their family is gonna move out. They're gonna have a nice car,
Right.
and they're gonna branch off into a nice house and so forth. That's how they do it.
But the problem is we don't like to see each other flourish. Like you were just saying, the crab in the barrel. Like if somebody's doing well, somebody's doing
get
good, we
in.
have to bring
Get
them
back.
back down.
Yeah.
I
And
heard
it's like,
I heard this one time. It was joking, but he was very true. A minister once said, you can put 10 Asians in a mansion. Oh, no, you can put 10 Asians in a small apartment, and in 10 months they all got a mansion. you put 10 Negroes in a mansion, they'll blow the whole block up.
Oh,
And he was
Ouch.
being funny about it.
but it's
But-
real.
But it's real because he was saying, and I want the listeners to understand what we're talking about is the black dollar. I wrote a piece for the Dallas Morning News a few years back talking about the difference between northern and southern sector and how there's so much money in the southern sector,
Right.
but there's not a lot of investors because of how the news perpetuates the crime and put a spotlight on the different things that happen in our community and exploit that. Not to say that there's not crime, but trust me, it's not the way it's portrayed.
Yeah.
And so investors get scared that they don't come in. And to your point, Derek, a lot of those who are in the community don't reinvest in the community.
Right.
So in the piece that I wrote, Open Letter to Black Men Community Crisis, I put that one of the things that the black man has to do within leading and governing and guarding his community is go into the banks. Ask them, what is your Community Reinvestment Act? Most people don't even know about it. But the Community Reinvestment Act is for any bank who is in a particular location, particularly inner city, that a part of their revenue has to go back into that community.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is go in with a solid business plan, talk to them, join the chambers of commerce within your city or wherever you
Right.
live, and you can go
City
in
Hall,
and
City
get
Hall.
a loan.
Mhm.
But no, we can't get a loan. The white man got no.
The white man don't have ESG.
Ignorance has its foot on your neck.
Right.
And so as a black man, I think it's very important that we stand back up and say, you know what? Yes, we've lost the way. And we can blame Reagan, we can blame drugs, and we can blame even the social engineering, as Minister Farrakhan brilliantly illustrated. However, at the end of the day, your children is looking at you.
Mhm.
And even though you can try to be Superman, and I understand the kryptonites of life try to get you, it's still your responsibility to be the guardian of the community. And until we do that, our community is going to continue to suffer. But I do believe this is the generation that wants to stand up, because we can't continue to have more and more black men, young black men, slain out there in these streets. I don't know about you, but I'm talking about the listeners. I don't know about you, but it bothers me when I read the news or look at the news and continuously black men are slain.
Every day.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was actually going to quote a piece of the letter where it says, to prevent another name from being added to the list of black men slain, we must resist foolish acts, burning down our own communities because we feel hopeless, and use that energy to ignite a fire in ourselves on a national and local voting days. I think that is so powerful. And I think so many more people need to hear that. I don't think people understand. We always say that there's no black people in office. There's no black people on in the system and the judicial system, stuff like that.
You be that guy.
I'm like, we could be that person, and until we get there, if we can't be there now, we can elect those people in office. So I think it's so important that we just keep banging into their heads how important voting is. Voting is. And even Dr. Hill was saying that we can vote them in, but some of them still won't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's why it always goes back to doing your research, doing your homework, researching these candidates, seeing what their principles are. How can they help the community? How can they bring us up? How can they ignite us? How can it be a domino effect? Okay, you do something good, I do something good, I do something good. Because at the end of the day, everybody's always watching. Like you said, our children are watching, our nieces and nephews are watching. And so if we're doing positive things for the community, they'll say, hey, that's cool, I can go and do that too. They see us voting, hey, we can do that too, we can go vote. So it's just about stepping foot out there and saying that, hold each other accountable, we got to go back and do it, but it starts right now.
Because one of the things I said when President Obama, I remember when he got elected,